Hi everybody, sorry we started the program with it being muted. I apologize, it was complete user error. So I just wanted to go ahead and thank everybody for joining us on Open Design Thinking pre-workshop webinar. I want to go ahead and give some quick logistical information before we get started into the meat of the program. So real quickly, we are going to have a question and answer period at the end of the webinar. We welcome you to submit your question and answers or your questions at any time through the question and answer chat box that you'll see in your toolbar. And then we will answer them as time permits at the end of the webinar. So let me quickly go through the agenda. We have the introductions by both of our speakers. We will then go through conducting ethnographic research. We will then go through gathering insights and then a review of the design briefs and the homework instructions that we will be providing. And then, of course, the questions and answers that we just mentioned earlier. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Samita.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. Good evening. Before we start, we would like to do a quick poll. So we'll have the poll question up for you. We would appreciate it if you would take the poll, please. Okay. So hi, I am Samita Kapadia. I am the Innovation Project Manager here at 9 Sigma. I have started my career as a scientist, and I worked on the bench in cardiovascular biology for several years. I transitioned into entrepreneurial pursuits about 7 years ago and have had a chance to work with several biomedical clients. I was also involved in leading product development and commercialization of a medical device at the Cleveland Clinic. I launched my own consulting, CapMed Consulting, in 2013, whereby I focused primarily working on companies that are developing new products and helping them with commercialization. I'm also an adjunct professor at Case Western Reserve University. I have a master's and PhD in biochemistry and a master's in entrepreneurship. And Manoj will introduce himself now.
Hi, everybody. Great to be here. And hopefully you've probably completed the first polling question. We're going to do one more polling question. So while you guys do that, I'm going to introduce myself. I started my career actually as an engineer, transitioned into management consulting. For about 8 years, I was with Deloitte. Then managed Vitamix's product lifecycle management and value engineering portfolio. I launched 1009 Consulting in 2005 with a focus on developing processes for breakthrough innovation within companies. And 1009 Consulting is partnered with 9 Sigma for the development and delivery of the Open Design Thinking program. I'm an adjunct professor at Case Western in Innovation Management and Marketing Strategy. I'm also certified in Design Thinking Methods. And as I mentioned, I have an engineering background, and I'm actually a current Ross Executive MBA student as well. So this is a slide that you'll become very familiar with as we go through today and the workshop in Atlanta. You don't have to absorb everything on this page. It's definitely a lot to absorb. Keep in mind, though, that today we'll really be focusing on the plan and research phases of this, and we won't be going through every aspect of this, and your homework will not be focused on every aspect of this. So keep that in mind. It's really plan and research.
So let's jump into conducting ethnographic research at this point of time. Please. So what is the purpose of ethnographic research? Most of us are familiar with the concept of gathering customer insights. We're probably used to doing it as we go through the product development life cycle. And the normal method of conducting or collecting customer insights is an interview, where the customer is taken out of their place of comfort and either invited into an office setting or a coffee shop or some other external environment where we sit down with them and ask them a few questions. Ethnographic research is also about collecting consumer insights. But the way you do ethnographic research is that you want to enter your consumer's world, your customer's world. You want to get up close and personal. And you want to understand their behavior, discover their patterns, and create the stories of their lived experiences. You're essentially a participant observer in their life during the period of time. You want to make sure you understand the value of the product and the context in which they're using the product, as well as what is the customer's motivation of using the product. You want to understand the why associated with why the customer is using a product. You want to make sure that you look at both words and actions, because oftentimes you see that what customers say and what customers do are different. You want to pay attention to the emotions that the customers are feeling as they are using the product or process or service. Are they happy? Are they frustrated? Are they angry? Some things that they may not necessarily articulate with words, but things that you might observe. Most important thing is you have to go with an open mind, and you have to challenge your stereotypes so that you're getting completely unbiased customer insights when you're conducting ethnographic research. The purpose of ethnographic research, as we talked, is to understand the why. The why is a customer doing a particular, using a particular product or service. So you want to identify the job that the customer is trying to do. The job is not a product, service, or solution. It is the higher purpose of why the customer is buying that product, service, or solution. So for example, when a customer goes out and buys a 1/4-inch drill bit, what the customer is actually buying is a 1/4-inch hole. And there are two aspects that you have to look at when you're looking at the job that the customer is trying to do. Obviously, there's the functional aspect. When I'm buying a 1/4-inch drill bit, I'm buying it to create a 1/4-inch hole, and that is the functional aspect. But there's also a very strong emotional aspect associated with the job to be done. Why do I want a 1/4-inch hole? Maybe I'm trying to hang up a picture frame of my family that will make me happy. That's the emotional aspect associated with the job that the customer is trying to do. And the emotional aspect can be internal, where something that is personal, something that makes you happy, or it can be a social emotional aspect. The iPhone is a great example of a social emotional aspect. People who bought the iPhone initially, the reason for them was they really cared about how they were perceived, that they were considered to be cool, up and coming, in line with new technology. So you want to be aware of both the personal, social, emotional aspects, as well as the functional aspects of the job that a customer is trying to do. Once you've gone through this process and you've looked at the different jobs that the customer is trying to accomplish, you're going to come up with some outcome statements. That generally it's not just one job that a customer is trying to do. You'll identify a list of jobs that a customer is trying to accomplish. So here's an example of a few outcome statements that we gathered while we were watching customers go through the dishwashing experience. And what we know is, what we heard the customers, or what we observed the customers tell us, was that they wanted to reduce the repeated bending when they were loading and unloading dishes, or they wanted to decrease the time that they spent processing the dishes, or they wanted there to be a visual indication to know when the dishes were done, or they wanted to spend less time gathering dirty dishes. So these are all the jobs that the customers are trying to accomplish. Notice that when you are doing ethnographic research, your aim is to come back with the needs of the customers. You're not trying to come back with a product or solution. You're trying to come back with a list of needs on which we will build up during the workshop to develop the products and solutions. So now I'll turn it over to Manoj, and he will walk you through the ethnographic research toolkit.
All right, thanks, Ramita. So I know there's a lot of boxes on this slide. We're going to slowly go through each of these ethnographic tools. but we wanted to have you kind of see the overall toolkit first. So the first tool is a standard in the ethnographic toolkit, the ethnographic interview. You really, with an interview, you're focusing on uncovering user thoughts, emotions, motivations. You're digging deep and asking why, and taking note of verbal and nonverbal information. You're encouraging users to share stories as they move through a process, choose a product or service. You're asking questions in a more neutral manner and definitely avoiding binary questions. So you're trying to get rich dialogue started and going, and then you can pivot and go deeper and deeper into that discussion. And then if possible, it's always great to record the interview in some way if the interviewee allows you to do so. It's great to come back to that information and kind of dig for clues and search for information. Analogy study is another really useful tool. It really starts with identifying key variables of the product, service, or process, and then studying some analogous situations, environments, and products. So for example, if I'm looking to improve the internal process within an ER using open design thinking methods, I may look at a car racing pit crew and see how they perform under extreme pressure and time crunch. Another good example is Arvind Eye Hospital in India. They do a massive amount of cataract surgeries for poor populations, and they actually studied McDonald's as a model for doing this under extreme constraints. Journey maps and value chain maps is another extremely useful tool, especially when you're looking at improving or reinventing a certain process or service. So a journey map systematically identifies the detailed steps, think of it as a process map, if you will, that a user goes through, and you actually walk through the process step by step, and as you do that, you start to identify points of pain and points of need as well. A value chain map you can kind of think of as the B2B equivalent of a journey map. It's similar to a journey map, but instead focuses on the pain points and opportunities faced by a business as it interacts with its value chain partners. The user journal photo video study, extremely useful. I've seen teams get a lot of benefit out of doing this. You may provide the target users with a journal and say, hey, every day I'd like you to journal before you go to bed on your process of getting ready to go to sleep, for example. Maybe there's something you want to reinvent or a product you want to invent for that time of the day. Or you give them a camera and say, throughout the day, as you have important encounters in your life, take a picture. Or maybe they have a video camera. So it's really the ability to have them capture moments that are real and happening in their life, and you're not really interviewing them per se, but you're allowing them to walk through that process or experience that service or product and give you really valuable information. The other thing is users often have a low what's called say-do ratio. So this tool helps to capture what users actually do versus what they think they do or what they may say they do. Some additional ethnographic tools and techniques. Behavioral archaeology, that's all about understanding people's behavior and activities based on how their space may be organized. So for example, if you're developing office products, you may study someone's work environment and how they use different things within their office. They may do it unconsciously, like driving a car. They may not know everything they do, but as you study the clues around them, you get a better, richer understanding. Fly on the wall is studying users without them really knowing that you're watching. It's kind of hidden camera type thing. Shadowing, this one you can think of it as, for example, if we were working with a company that makes consumer products and it's a product that consumers try out and use in the store, for example, we may accompany them on a shopping trip and understand their process of making a purchase decision, how they trial the product at the store, etc. Personal inventory is identifying what users consider important to their lifestyle. And it's kind of dovetails with the user collage. A user collage is asking users to create and explain using a collage a given subject. So through that, you understand what's important to them and what their motivations are. An unfocused group is, as it sounds, assembling a diverse group and having them co-create something together. That's a great way to kind of understand points of pain for consumers and opportunities. And then human guinea pig would be, an example where you yourself use the product or service. You immerse yourself in the experience. So instead of just interviewing people about, for example, a intake process at a hospital, you go through the intake process and experience it, and through that you gain empathy. All of this ethnographic research ultimately points the way to gathering insights. You're going to have to, ethnographic research, you can think of it as the divergent phase of the research stage. But, you're collecting a bunch of stuff, but then ultimately you have to diverge and gather those insights and find out what's really important and find out where those diamonds are. One way of organizing the vast amount of research that you're going to collect is using an empathy map. What did users say? What did users do? What were the users thinking? Or maybe you make some hypotheses about what they were thinking. How did the users actually feel as they went through this process or used this product, etc. Another great way to organize a lot of disparate thoughts, many of you have probably used mind maps. Definitely recommend this method. I've seen it used very successfully to organize a lot of different thoughts and really figure out where the key insights are and make sense of all this information. Some nice examples of deep user insights. Obviously, there's a lot more to these, but to really make it simplified, P&G, when they developed the Swiffer, one of their biggest breakthroughs is, initially the team was actually, really focused on developing stronger and stronger detergents. But what they ultimately realized is, the job to be done here is cleaner floors. And how do we get cleaner floors? Well, they actually reinvented the mop, which was hundreds of years old, and took a totally different spin on it because of just this insight about consumers just wanting cleaner floors, not necessarily stronger detergent. Nicorette really shaped their marketing messages and the development of Nicorette gum by Pfizer by understanding that most smokers don't actually view smoking as an illness, but a lifestyle choice. And they're not necessarily looking to completely remove nicotine from their life, but they may be, wanting to avoid some of the harmful carcinogenic effects of smoking. So it's another one there. The final one is Shimano and the line of coasting bikes that it developed. People outside of Shimano's core customer base wanted to reconnect, they found, with their experiences as children. And that was really what they found to be a motivating factor for this whole demographic of people that really were not riding bikes very much anymore. And they were able to develop something for that mainstream market that wasn't intimidating, that didn't have tons of bells and whistles on it, and they developed this whole new line of products, which was a big hit. So I'm going to hand it off to Famita. She is going to talk about the homework that you guys are going to be doing. She'll introduce the design briefs that we've developed for you and that you'll be picking one of the three, and we'll talk about the homework instructions.
So I'll go through the first design brief in detail. It's about how can we improve the commercial dry cleaning and laundering process for consumers. The scope of your project is United States and suburbs, where you're assuming that the clothes are being processed by an external dry cleaning facility. So we are focused on reinventing the process of external dry cleaning. Some of the key questions that you can potentially explore are, how can technology be used to improve the process? What can the dry cleaners do to make the process easier for repeat customers? Is it really necessary for the customer to visit the dry cleaner, or is there a better method for transporting the clothes back and forth? Can the overall process time be reduced? How can you better sort garments at home, whether you want to send them out for dry cleaning or whether you want to actually do the laundry at home? And your target customer base is busy working professionals who would use external services and who don't have the time to do the laundry at home. And obviously, you also have your sensitive clothes, which are dry clean only. Note that the key questions listed here are only a guideline. You can add to the key questions to explore if you find another interesting or challenging area that you feel would help you develop a better understanding of improving the process of dry cleaning. The next design brief is how can we make it easier for elderly people to remember to take their medications? And the third design brief is how can we improve the car maintenance experience. Go ahead.
Okay, so thanks, Smita, for going through those. Want to review the homework instructions with everybody. Keep in mind we are definitely here to help. So Famita and I, in the follow-up email to this webinar, you will get our contact information. So I wanted to mention that because it's not on this slide, but we are definitely here to help if you have questions either today or later in the process. So everyone that's registered for the workshop will receive an email from 9 Sigma today that will include the following items. It's going to include design brief 1, 2, and 3. It's going to have a handout that summarizes the ethnographic research tools. So don't worry if you didn't write everything down from the presentation today. It will be a document that summarizes all those tools and how to use them. And then a link to a sign up for one of the design briefs. You can only pick one, and each topic, each of the design briefs, 1, 2, and 3, have 10 slots for names. Once those 10 slots are filled up, that's it. So it's capped at 10. So keep that in mind. We want to make sure we have everyone doing a mix of 1, 2, and 3, so that's why we're doing that. Please sign up for the design brief as soon as possible. Once you get the email from us, go to that link and sign up for that. Put your name for the design brief you're interested in. Create a plan for conducting the ethnographic research. And we suggest you use at least 2 of the ethnographic tools that we referred to and study at least 5 to 10 people. Now, of course, you can go beyond this. And when we've done this workshop in the past, the students often did go beyond and, even get more and more into their project. And so don't feel that you need to stick to 2 methods and 5 to 10 people. That's just a guide. And then you're going to execute your plan. So, intentionally we have some time now between now and the 26th of April, and you'll want to use that time wisely to conduct your research. You'll want to gather all your research and organize those insights using either a mind map or an empathy map. And you want to start to put that together. Most likely you're going to do it on the computer with some files that you put together. We're not going to prescribe the exact format of how you're going to organize these things. So be creative, and most of all, bring that research and that information and the work that you did to the workshop on April 26th in Atlanta. And we will bring everyone together at that time, and we will create teams of people based on common design briefs that they did, and we'll explain next steps beyond that at the workshop. So again, Famita and I are here to help. Of course, if you have questions right now, we'd definitely love to hear them.
So we have not received any questions right now through the GoToWebinar app, so feel free to submit any as you see fit right now. If not, like Manoj said, feel free to email either Manoj or Famita through the email that we are going to send out later. An additional note, this has been recorded, and we will also be sending a link to this within that email as well, so that you can go over all of this with the obvious feedback that Famita and Manoj have provided throughout this entire presentation. So we received one question. Is there a way to follow up if we can't attend in Atlanta?
If you can't attend in Atlanta.
Yes.
What?
So I think where that question may be going is
Is there a second one?
Yes.
Yeah, so one of the things is we've received a lot of interest, which is great, for this workshop. There's quite a few people on this call. I think it's over 40. Mm-hmm. So we have capped the attendance for the workshop in Atlanta to 30 people. And beyond 30, Casey is going to be tracking those people on a wait list. And if we get a critical mass of people, let's say more than 10 people sign up on the wait list, we will very likely do another workshop at a future date and time. So you may choose to participate in this process now, or you can always wait to do this pre-work, this homework, until the next time that we do this workshop. I think that's where the question was going. Hopefully I answered it.
So another question that we just received is, for those who have signed up for the workshop, but it has been a while, can you go ahead and quickly review the structure, the format, and then the outcomes of the workshop?
This is the question.
Oh, that's the question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Say that again. I missed it. Sorry.
For those of you, I apologize. So for those of you who have signed up for the workshop, can you quickly review the structure, the format, and the outcomes for the workshop?
The structure for the workshop itself. Want to review that?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you can go back to the graphic slide, the process model. So we're going to bring up the process model because this is probably the easiest way to explain this. So the way it's going to work is when everyone comes with their homework to Atlanta, we're going to break people up into teams of about 4 or 5 people, and that team is going to take their design brief and the research that they did and everything to the next level, to the next steps. So they are going to define design criteria. They're going to then move into the ideation phase where they are going to do what's called brainwriting and brainstorming. And there's a specific process that we have outlined to do that. We'll explain more what brainwriting is. They're also going to develop what's called concept briefs. And then the teams are actually going to present their concept briefs, which is always a lot of fun because you get to kind of see the end product of all your hard work, and you get to see what other teams came up with, and it's a really cool chance to share and understand what other teams did. And we're going to make it a little bit competitive too, because whoever votes, everyone's going to get a chance to vote for who they think the best team was, and that winning team is going to get some prizes. So that's how the workshop will flow. It ends with the team presentations. We'll have a wrap up with closing remarks and Q&A. So keep in mind that really the stages of the design thinking, the open design thinking process model that we're really focusing on, not only with this pre-work, but the workshop itself, is plan, research, and ideate.
So if I may add, at the end of the workshop, what you're going to have is a few ideas of potential prototypes that you can develop. And then it gets into that point of you actually going out and physically developing the prototypes and then testing them out. So the workshop is designed to help you complete the process up to ideation and have some ideas on which you can go about and develop prototypes.
Great. So I think that we are all done with the questions that we have. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here today for this pre-workshop webinar, or
pre-workshop.
Yeah, exactly. So I apologize. Thank you so much again. As we said, we will be sending out an email with all of this information so that you can review it at your leisure. We thank you all again for joining us